With a new month, we of course get new tier shifts and usage stats for Gen 9 competitive singles. This month we have some very notable rises and drops, like Garganeckle and Deoxys Speed rising up to the OU tier once again, while Iron Boulder has actually dropped down to the UU tier. Lender's T has also slowly climbed its way back up to the top of the metagame after almost dropping to the UU tier. There's much more to discuss, so let's take an in-depth look at all of these tier shifts and usage stats. So we got 4 rises to the OU tier and also 3 drops from the OU tier to the UU and RU tier respectively. And here are all the other drops and rises on the screen if you want to take a look at those. We're gonna go over OU though. Also, we have the usage stats right here for last month. Let's start off with Garganeckle's rise to the OU tier. So Garganeckle is back in the OU tier. Does not really surprise me. I was waiting for it to rise back because this Pokemon has never been bad in my opinion. It has always been good, even though it dropped to the UU tier. I mean, Salt Cure plus Protect is still a set that sees a lot of use. Very annoying to deal with, has been picked up in Smogon Premier League as of late. Curse plus Body Press, also still a good set. Covert Cloak is not really being used as much these days. Back in the day, you know, we had Covert Cloak, Golden Go being a very common switch into this Pokemon, which makes Garganeckle's job a little more difficult, but that item is really nowhere to be seen. You know, what I really think was the biggest problem with Garganeckle, it fits very well on balanced teams, which were not really that meta for some time. It was really like HO or really offensive teams as stall teams that were kind of dominating. But balance has seen a return, which means Garganeckle is also seeing a return. As for the other rises, I'm gonna be very real here. I don't really have anything to say that hasn't been said. The other rises are just the Pokemon rising back to the OU tiers, where Sticky Web is seeing more use. Iron Mod, I don't think it's ever been like a bad Pokemon in the OU tier. It's still amazing. It also fits right there on those Sticky Web teams. Deoxys Speed, even though it dropped to UU, I think I said it in the last video as well, it's still good in the OU tier, still ranked quite high. Just because a Pokemon drops to UU does not necessarily mean it's bad in the OU tier. And that's why I really don't have anything to say about why they have risen up. Because they're doing the same thing. It's really because they have seen more usage as of late. That's really the simple answer. I will go more in depth about these drops though, because there is some story behind this. Starting off with Iron Boulder. So Iron Boulder dropping is quite big. I mean, when it first released, it was on top of the metagame, used a lot, very high success. And you know, not surprising dropping this month, since it already dropped, almost dropped last month as well. There's just too many problems with this Pokemon, which makes it quite unreliable. I will say, the fact that it has a great, you know, rock move, physical, that's a big W. It's also very fast, the fastest non-choice carver in the metagame. If you have boost energy speed, basically outspeed everything. However, that's kind of where it stops. First of all, this Pokemon's offensive and defensive typing is horrible. I don't really need to think. I need to go in depth on that. You know, it's weak to every priority move, or not every priority move, but the most common priority moves, right? Sucker Punch, for example, from King Gambit, Grassy Glide from Rillaboom, and also Aqua Jet. So quite commonly seen priority moves. And this Pokemon was quite frail on the physical side. Not to mention that it's quite Terra dependent. If you don't want to be weak to those priority moves, if you actually want something done and set up on some Pokemon, you need that Terra fighting for additional step on the fighting, on the close combat, ground on Earthquake, or Terra flying to set up on would-be checks like Gliscor and Great Tusk. Which is another point, this Pokemon is checked by a lot of Pokemon in the metagame, like the aforementioned Great Tusk, Gliscor, Landorus T, King Gambit, Golden Go, Alomomola, Dondozo, the list really goes on. You need Zen Hembot for Great Tusk, but you also need Close Combat for Gambit. You need Earthquake for Golden Go. You definitely need Sword Stance. And it's dependent on setting up. You're not really getting anything done without setting up a Sword Stance, which can be tough to do with this horrible typing and also very weak physical bulk. That's basically what happened to Iron Boulder. Very overhyped in the beginning. I thought it was very good in the beginning as well, I'm not gonna lie. Kinda sad to see it drop down. We'll see how it fares up in the UU tier. But for now, I don't know if it is gonna rise back up to the OU tier. We're gonna have to wait and see. So Pelipper and Barraskewda, I'm grouping these Pokemon together because they are part of the same playstyle. This being Rain, of course. I mean, obviously they dropped because Archelodon got banned. Archelodon was really what was holding Rain teams together and made them as potent as they were. But unfortunately, the Pokemon's not allowed anymore. Rain teams are just kind of matchup dependent right now, which makes them not really reliable. So it should not really be a surprise that Rain is dropping from the OU to UU tier. Barraskewda actually dropped to RU. That's because when it rose back up to OU, it went straight from RU to OU. So now it's dropping back to RU again. Maybe we'll see Rain being used in the UU tier, with Tornadus also being there. But in OU, not the play anymore right now. Lastly, let's take a look at some of the usage stats. Landorus D in number 4. Who would have thought? Not me. I would never have thought that this Pokemon would go back up on top 4. I mean, it was very high up last month as well, but it got even more usage. More than Golden Go, although by little. Iron Valiant falling down to number 7. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's ever been lower than top 5. So this is a first. We see Ogerpon, Wellspring almost making it back to the top 10, even though it almost fell to UU after the release of DLC 2. Gouging Fire also seeing a lot of usage right there. Aside from that, I think Kyurem fell down a little bit, but I think these usage sets are kind of what they were last month, except for, of course, Deoxys Speed and Rabombe now being on the list, and Iron Boulder falling off, and Iron Moth also, of course. That's really it for the usage stats and tier shifts, at least from my perspective. So if you enjoyed, leave a like, leave a comment with what you think is the most notable usage stat or tier shift that has happened. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.